Have you ever felt like part of you already knows the answer, but another part of you cannot seem to turn that answer into reality? You have an idea, a brilliant insight, a sudden knowing, a creative vision that appears almost fully formed. For a moment, everything makes sense. You can see the future, you can see the pattern, you can see what is possible. And then something strange happens. Hours pass, days pass, sometimes months pass. The idea remains, the vision remains, but the bridge between insight and action never fully forms. Many ADHD women live inside this experience every day. Not because they are lazy, not because they lack intelligence, and not because they are incapable of creating structure, but because they are often operating between two very different forces, a force of inspiration and a force of organization, a force of vision and a force of form. In Kabbalah, these forces have names: Chochmah and Binah, wisdom and understanding, the flash of insight and the container that gives it shape. And today I want to explore something fascinating. What if many ADHD women are not broken? What if they are simply spending most of their lives moving back and forth between these two worlds? And what if understanding this dynamic could reduce years of self-blame? One of the most misunderstood aspects of ADHD is that the issue is rarely intelligence. In fact, many women with ADHD are extraordinarily perceptive. They see connections quickly, they recognize patterns, they intuit solutions before other people have even identified the problem. They often have rich inner worlds, powerful imagination, strong intuition, creative thinking, and an ability to synthesize information across different domains. Many can connect psychology with spirituality, history with personal growth, science with symbolism. They naturally think in systems rather than isolated pieces. Yet despite these strengths, many struggle with planning, prioritizing, organizing, sequencing, and execution. This creates a painful contradiction. Internally, they know they are capable of more. Externally, their lives may not always reflect what they can see inside themselves. This gap can become a source of enormous frustration because the world often rewards visible structure more than invisible insight. Over time, many women begin to assume that something is wrong with them, but Kabbalah offers another perspective. Perhaps you are experiencing an imbalance between two archetypal forces. In the Tree of Life, Chochmah is often translated as wisdom, but this does not mean accumulated knowledge. Chochmah is the spark before the thought, the sudden arrival of an idea, the intuitive flash, the moment when something appears from seemingly nowhere. It is expansive, fast, creative, alive. It moves before language, before analysis, before planning. Imagine standing outside on a quiet evening and suddenly understanding something that has bothered you for years. No step-by-step process, no logical sequence, just a knowing. That is Chochmah. Many ADHD women recognize this state immediately. Ideas appear rapidly. Connections emerge effortlessly. Insights arrive during walks, showers, conversations, or random moments throughout the day. Sometimes the challenge is not finding ideas. The challenge is having too many. This can create a life filled with possibility, but possibility alone is not enough, because every spark eventually requires a container. And that brings us to Binah. Binah is often translated as understanding. If Chochmah is the seed, Binah is the womb. If Chochmah is inspiration, Binah is development. If Chochmah is the lightning bolt, Binah is the structure that channels the electricity safely. Binah takes the raw spark and asks, how will this work? What are the steps? What is the sequence? What is the plan? How does this become reality? Binah creates boundaries, organization, order, containment. And for many ADHD women, this is where things become difficult, not because Binah is absent, but because sustaining Binah requires a type of attention that may feel less natural than inspiration itself. The result is a familiar cycle. A powerful insight appears. Excitement rises. Possibilities multiply. And then the practical reality of implementation begins. Suddenly, the energy drops. The project feels overwhelming. The details become exhausting. The vision remains beautiful, but translating it into reality feels far more difficult than generating it. This is the tension between Chochmah and Binah. Many women believe overwhelm comes from having too much to do, but often overwhelm begins much earlier. It begins when expansion exceeds containment. Every idea creates potential action. Every possibility creates future responsibility. Every vision requires structure. When dozens of insights arrive without sufficient containers, the nervous system begins carrying more possibilities than it can organize. This creates a feeling that many ADHD women know intimately. Mental fullness, not because the mind lacks intelligence, but because it contains too many open loops. In Kabbalistic language, there is more Chochmah than Binah, more expansion than containment, more possibility than structure. And eventually, even beautiful possibilities become exhausting. The modern world often celebrates creativity, but creativity without structure can become painful. You may constantly start new projects. You may collect books faster than you read them, courses faster than you complete them, ideas faster than you implement them. You may become attached to potential instead of reality. And eventually, something dangerous can happen. You stop trusting yourself, not because your ideas are bad, but because so many remain unfinished. This is where self-criticism often enters. I never follow through. I can't stay consistent. I should be more disciplined. But self-judgment rarely creates binah. It usually creates shame. And shame consumes energy that could be used for structure. The answer is not to suppress Chochmah. The answer is to strengthen Binah. Many people try to solve overwhelm by becoming more productive. Binah suggests something different. Become more structured, not rigid. Structured. There is a difference. Rigid systems often collapse because they fight against natural energy. Binah is not punishment. Binah is containment. Think about a river. Without banks, water spreads everywhere. It loses power. But with structure, the same water becomes focused, directed, useful. Many ADHD women do not need less inspiration. They need stronger containers, smaller projects, clearer boundaries, fewer active commitments, less open-endedness, more completion. This is not a reduction of creativity. It is the protection of creativity. A simple question can change everything. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, am I lacking inspiration or am I lacking structure? Most people never separate these two states. Yet the solutions are completely different. If inspiration is low, you may need exploration, rest, novelty, learning, creativity. But if inspiration is abundant and overwhelm is high, the answer is usually not more ideas. The answer is more binah. Choose one project, one next step, one commitment, one container. Instead of asking, what do I want to create? Ask, what can I realistically hold? That is a Binah question, and often it is the question that changes everything. One reason many neurodivergent women are drawn to mystical systems is that they intuitively recognize patterns. The Tree of Life provides a map for forces they already experience internally. When they encounter Chochmah and Binah, something often clicks. Not because Kabbalah explains ADHD, it does not, but because it offers symbolic language for experiences that are otherwise difficult to describe. The tension between vision and execution, expansion and containment, possibility and reality, inspiration and structure. These are not personal failures, they are universal human forces. The question is not which force is better, the question is whether they are balanced. Because Chochmah without Binah becomes chaos, and Binah without Chochmah becomes rigidity. Life emerges when the two work together. Perhaps the goal is not to become someone else. Perhaps the goal is not to force yourself into systems that were never designed for your mind. Perhaps the goal is to understand the architecture already operating within you, to recognize when inspiration is flowing, to recognize when structure is needed, to stop judging yourself for having a mind that naturally sees possibilities, and to begin building containers strong enough to hold them. Because your intuition is not the problem. Your creativity is not the problem. Your ability to see patterns is not the problem. The invitation is simply to develop the structure that allows those gifts to take form. In Kabbalah, wisdom and understanding are not enemies, they are partners. And perhaps many ADHD women spend years believing they must choose between them, when the real work is learning how to bring them together. If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Do you feel more connected to Chochmah or Binah right now? And if you're interested in exploring Kabbalah, archetypes, neurodivergence, and nervous system regulation through the lens of sacred structure, subscribe and join us. New videos every Sunday. Until next time, remember, structure is not the opposite of intuition. Structure is what allows intuition to become reality.